Breaking news, the Wall Street Journal is out with a new report describing the fallout between President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. The Journal reports that a spa worker from Mar-a-Lago often made house calls to Jeffrey Epstein's home, 2 miles away, even though Epstein didn't pay dues, according to former Mar-a-Lago and Epstein employees. But those house calls, quote, came to a halt in 2003 after an 18-year-old beautician returned to the club from a house call to Epstein and reported to managers that he had pressured her for sex, according to former employees.
If the president thought the Epstein controversy would get left behind in 2025, he better call up his fellow billionaire bigot, Rupert Murdoch, and relay that message, because it doesn't seem to be reaching him, considering the Wall Street Journal just dropped an absolute Epstein bombshell.
What we've learned this week, that at a minimum, Trump knew that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were trafficking young girls. We know Virginia Giuffre was trafficked from Mar-a-Lago. Trump says he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. You don't get kicked out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. You might get kicked out of Mar-a-Lago for trafficking underage girls. But if Trump knew, as I think the emails suggest...
How long did he know for?
And why didn't he go to the FBI at the time?
This week, a new report found its way into one of the most establishment conservative-leaning newspapers in America, the Wall Street Journal, and it dropped a very serious allegation that for years, employees at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach were regularly sent to provide massages, manicures, and other spa services to convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein at his mansion off property, despite warnings from staff about Epstein's inappropriate behavior. And yes, to reiterate, this is the Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch's flagship newspaper, reporting on this matter.
As we await a federal judge in Miami making a ruling about whether the Wall Street Journal defamed Donald Trump or not, the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch are fighting back and doing their job, doing new reporting about a 2003 fax, remember faxes, that went from the Mar-a-Lago spa manager to Donald Trump, informing him in 2003 that Jeffrey Epstein had sexually propositioned an 18-year-old spa attendant who Donald Trump allowed to be sent from Mar-a-Lago to at Jeffrey Epstein's home in Palm Beach, 2 miles away, and Trump was put on notice. So what did Trump do next? Nothing. He allegedly stopped sending him spa attendants to his house. He didn't ban him from Mar-a-Lago. He couldn't cancel his membership. He was never a member. But think about how many girls and young women would have been saved from the predator attacks of Jeffrey Epstein had Donald Trump in 2003 off of that fax not just worried about Mar-a-Lago, but it actually made a referral to the police or the FBI about his buddy Jeffrey Epstein.
According to the report in the Journal, Mar-a-Lago staff, many of them young women, were sent as house calls to Epstein's nearby Palm Beach estate for spa services, despite internally acknowledged concerns about Epstein's behavior. Also, Epstein wasn't even a member of Trump's club, but was treated as one upon Trump's instruction, and his appointments were booked by his longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who used the spa environment to recruit workers for her own purposes.
They report that from there, the HR manager faxed Trump a letter suggesting that the club ban Epstein, and Trump agreed that he should be kicked out, which does mirror the president's own public comments about why he cut ties with Epstein.
For years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth.
The White House is responding to the Wall Street Journal, writing, no matter how many times this story is told and retold, the truth remains President Trump did nothing wrong, and he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. They're not entirely the same, because stealing an employee and sexually harassing an employee or maybe even assaulting them, not quite the same, but this does sort of add to more of a sense of what was going on between Trump and Epstein at this time.
Former employees told the Journal that Epstein sometimes behaved inappropriately and that staff had warned each other about him long before anyone was ever formally barred.
I mean, I have always thought
that this is a key pillar. If you want to understand Donald Trump, I mean, you can elect Donald Trump, as people did, but it is a key fact of his life that for more than 10 years, he was the best friend of Jeffrey Epstein. And their friendship was clearly over women. What we can say is that for over 10 years, Donald Trump lived the life of a sleazeball, lived a life that I think, if people understood, would have disqualified him from the presidency.
Now, the fact that the Wall Street Journal, which is not a left-wing newspaper, it's actually owned by Rupert Murdoch's News Corp, which also owns usually supportive outlets like the New York Post and Fox News parent network, is out here running a report that connects Donald Trump's business operation, Mar-a-Lago, once again to a convicted sex traffickers network of young women, is an issue for the president. And the fact that we're just accepting these articles as normal and not reporting on them to the length that they should be is a problem.
We now have confirmation that Donald Trump was plucking girls out of his Mar-a-Lago spa in Palm Beach, Florida, transferring these underage girls over to Jeffrey Epstein, and then said underage girls were subsequently coerced, abused into having sex, and let's just call it what it is, they were raped. When you have rich, powerful men handpicking girls, and then those men are abusing their wealth and power dynamics to get young girls, vulnerable girls, to have sex with them, there is no other word than rape. To make matters even worse, Donald Trump is on the record in 2003 saying Jeffrey Epstein likes to have fun and he likes them young. He said those words, that Jeffrey Epstein likes them young. So he was signaling that he had inside knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's, let's call them, activities regarding young girls in the early 2000s and late 90s in Palm Beach, Florida.
For a right-wing paper to publish all of this without hedging around it is bound to ruffle feathers at Mar-a-Lago and the White House. But as I've noted over the past few months, right, this isn't the first time that the Journal have taken aim at the president over the Epstein files and other areas such as the GOP's inability to come to a consensus on the healthcare subsidies issue. But this, an expose that flies in the face of Trump's assertion that he, quote, kicked Epstein out for being a creep, is an issue that we've seen transcend political affiliation. Republicans and Democrats alike are unified in their demand for accountability and have grown frustrated at the desperate attempts from the Trump administration and the Department of Justice to delay or sway the course of justice.
The latest Fox poll shows 80% of registered voters have been following the Epstein case. Of the people who've been following the case, only 13% believe the Trump administration has been open and transparent. The Epstein scandal will not be going away anytime soon.
There's a new CNN poll that's just out. How's the controversy impacting the president's support?
Yeah, I would say that the word is dissatisfied. That is how Americans feel in terms of the releases so far of the Epstein case. Take a look here. Epstein case, amount of info release. The winner here, 50% dissatisfied. Doesn't matter, 29%, not heard enough, 17%. But look at the bottom of your screen. The percentage that are satisfied is just 3%. That's 1, that's 2, that is just 3%. I feel like the count on Sesame Street. Just 3% of Americans are satisfied so far with the amount of information released. The clear winner in this particular case is 50%. Half of the public is dissatisfied, at least so far.
Now, of course, the Trump defenders came out and forced the White House push back hard, calling the Journal's reporting fallacies and innuendo, and insisting that Trump did nothing wrong and acted appropriately when banning Epstein. But this latest Wall Street Journal report is not just another chapter in the ongoing Epstein story. It's one of the most serious and specific accounts, tying Trump's longtime business concern, Mar-a-Lago, to Jeffrey Epstein's network of operations yet again. And the fact it was published by someone who's known as a Trump ally, a Murdoch-affiliated mainstream newspaper, not an opposition outlet that Trump would often refer to as fake news, means this narrative has crossed a threshold.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.